What's up, guys? Brendan here, host and creator of this channel, Yankees Fan Unleashed. This is my second video. This video will be on Juan Soto's contract. Gerrit Cole today came out and said, love Gerrit Cole, by the way, but he came out and said that the contract was great for baseball, great for the sport, which maybe it is. It's certainly great for players, and I have no hate of players making a ton of money, but I'm going to go into Juan Soto's contract and long-term mega contracts in this sport in general, and they usually are not very good for the teams who sign them. So I'm going to go into all that, and I just wanted to introduce myself. You know, this is my second video on this channel. This channel is I'm still experimenting with how I want my videos to go, but my goal is to get you daily Yankees content, and go into things in detail and just give my experience. I'm a Yankees Fan Unleashed because I have no affiliation with anybody. I'm just a fan who likes to watch the game, who loves baseball, and I'm just going to give my takes on things, and that's going to be it. And so here we go. Here's what Gerrit Cole is saying, and then I'll come back with you on what Juan Soto's contract really means for the Mets and what it means for baseball.
Very large amount of money, but you know, it's hard to underestimate great players. It's hard to underestimate Scott too. I mean, you know, he does a good job at what he does. So, and it is a large number. It's a historic contract. It's good for all players. It's good for the game. You know, it's obviously the Mets and the Mets fan base are thrilled about it too. So, you know, it was exciting. It was exciting. I think the anticipation was always about, like, how high is it going to get? So, you know, definitely an exciting run.
Of course, the Scott Gerrit Cole is referring to there is Scott Boras, his agent, and Juan Soto's agent. Scott Boras, of course, famous for representing some of the biggest names in baseball. He of course got Gerrit Cole his contract with the Yankees a few years ago, which was at the time the largest contract for a starting pitcher. And then you have now Juan Soto's contract, which with the Mets is for 15 years, $765 million, which is $51 million per year. Takes him to about the age of 39, okay? He's 26 right now, which is why he got such a long contract. And the contract also has an opt-out after the 2029 season, so 5 seasons from now, he could opt out, and the Mets could opt back in and up his AAV, I believe that's what it's called, or, you know, annual per year, to $55 million, which make the total contract $805 million, which is, of course, more than Shohei's contract. And Shohei's contract is, of course, strange, you know, because he defers most of his money, but it's $700 million for 10 years, technically. So he's technically getting more per year, but Juan is getting more overall. And, you know, the thing with the contract is Juan Soto is very much, to me, reminiscent of Miguel. Now, I don't mean this in any disrespectful way to Miguel Cabrera. You know, he's one of the greatest of all time. I mean, well, he's a Hall of Famer. I don't know if I'd call him one of the greatest of all time. He did win the Triple Crown in 2013, which, if you remember, after that he signed an 8-year extension with the Tigers worth about $248 million, which was $31 million more per year through the 2022 season, or 2023. And, you know, he was very good for the first few years of that contract, but then after 2016, as you can see from his stats, he fell off a cliff, okay? The most home runs he hit after the 2016 season was 16, okay? In his last 2 years with the Tigers, he hit a total of 9 home runs. You can see his WAR. Now, I am not a total WAR person. I don't think it's at all end-all, be-all. And, you know, but what's important about the WAR here is that not only was he no longer really the Miguel Cabrera we knew as a hitter, but he was a DH, okay? So he was 34 years old in 2017, and he mainly played as DH, okay? So he couldn't play in the field, and he was a subpar hitter, really. I mean, if you look at his slugging, you look at his OPS, it's at best average, okay? Especially in the early years, you could say 2017 was like maybe an average season for like an average, you know, shortstop or something like that. But like, he wasn't Miguel Cabrera, okay? And then by the end, he was barely playing at all. He wasn't even starting for the Tigers, and he was just, the contract, for the majority of that contract, was just awful, okay? And you can see with Juan Soto, I mean, we as Yankee fans, we saw he was not a good fielder at all. I mean, he's 26 years old. I'm sure he'll play, right field or left field for the Mets, until maybe until he's 34. But then you're still talking about a long period of time. And I think 34 is a good guesstimate, honestly. I don't think he plays the field until he's 34, at least not the outfield. Okay, maybe he switches a position, but then even then, he's just going to be, a liability out there. Because he's not even, let's say if he moves to first base, he's not going to be a first baseman. So that's the first issue with Juan Soto right there. Okay? Okay, and then you look at all the other major long-term contracts that have already been panned out, okay? We have a number of 10-year long-term contracts that have currently been signed in MLB. I won't, it's too hard to tell where those are going to end up right now, but if you look at some of the other ones throughout history, Joey Votto, he signed a 10-year deal after the 2014 season, and in the last 6 years of his deal, he had, I would say, one season, 2018, where he hit 36 home runs, where he was Joey Votto. He didn't even hit, I think the most home runs he hit was 15 in the other years. He was not Joey Votto. Through the majority of the 10-year contract he signed, worth $225 million with the Reds, which of course for the Reds, that is like a killer because they're a low market team. Now, if you look at, let's say, Albert Pujols, same thing. About halfway through his 10-year contract with the Angels, he just, went down a cliff. He wasn't the same. He was in his late 30s or mid to late 30s, which again is something you could argue with Juan Soto, is that he's 26, which is of course why he got the 15-year. Although I would also argue that he also got the 15-year contract because Steve Cohen wanted to make a statement. I think Juan Soto really benefited from the fact that he was making a statement. I think if you go back and look, obviously the Blue Jays were in there. The Blue Jays are on every team and they don't get it, okay? They don't get any free agents basically, but they're in on every team. They were in on even Shohei, Yamamoto, okay? Unfortunately for Canada, they don't get good baseball players. Could be their taxes, I don't really know. But if you look at the majority of contracts, if you look at who was really negotiating with Juan Soto, I think the Padres were in there, maybe San Francisco, but I think it mainly came down at the end to the Yankees or Mets. And I think it very much became a thing about Steve Cohen wants to make a statement. He's the Mets owner, okay? And the big bad Yankees, he's a longtime Mets fan. He wanted to make a statement. He's got unlimited money, supposedly. Why don't you go build a hospital wing instead of overbidding for Juan Soto? But, I think he really benefited from that. I think if you took out the Steve Cohen factor, I don't even think Juan Soto gets this contract. I think he gets maybe 15 years, but he gets way lower value overall, okay? And I think that would have been fair. I think if the Yankees paid even 15 years, $600 million, maybe $650, I think it would have been good overall. Because like I said, I think he'll be, like most players, he'll be a pretty good hitter until about 35, maybe. So you got 9 years. But like I said, you've got so many issues with his fielding. That we know with Big G, and I love Big G in a way. I don't think he's worth the contract unless he carries us to a World Series over his next 3 seasons. He signed through 2027. But, we know that in the regular season, he's really kind of a major anchor on the team. He can only DH at this point. And it seems like every time he gets going, when he starts to really get hot at the plate, it seems like he gets injured running the bases because he can't even run the bases. Now, and of course, he signed a 13-year mega contract, $300 million plus with the Marlins, and then they dumped him off to us. And so it really hasn't panned out for us. Now, like I said, he's great in the playoffs, and if he ends up leading us to a World Series, I would say his contract is worth it. You look at some of the other contracts, Yamamoto, I was all in on Yamamoto when the Yankees were trying to get him above the Dodgers, but he was injured most of last season. Now he also really helped them he pitched great against us in the World Series. So I'm not saying, and it was just the first year, but he was already injured, and it was an injury that was a bit concerning. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like arm stuff. Now some contracts are good. I would say the Royals contract with Bobby Witt Jr. is actually a pretty good contract for the Royals. Bobby Witt Jr. could have, assuming he stayed healthy until his full free agency, he probably could have gotten more than the $289 million he got for 11 years with them. But that's probably going to work out well for them. He's very young. Frankly, he could very well. I think Judge has a few really good years left, but I think we could be looking at Bobby Witt Jr. being the best player in the American League, quite frankly, not that long from now. The Padres have some terrible contracts. Manny Machado signed through 2033 for $350 million. That's not worth it. Fernando Tatis, he got a steroid suspension, right after that. It was a couple seasons ago now, but, and he signed through 2034. Okay. Julio Rodriguez with the Mariners, he signed for a very low $210 million. So I would say that it could end up being worth it for the Mariners. It's too hard to tell. Like I said, a lot of these big 10-year contracts now are just getting started. They're a lot more common now, but Juan Soto is now signing for 15 years. And that's sort of like the new 10-year contract. It was only A-Rod, Jeter, and like I said, Miguel Cabrera were like the only players who were signing for those mega deals. Now you've got a handful of players at 10 years, and Juan Soto's the 115-year. He's the next. There's no way a 36-year-old Juan Soto is worth $55 million. That's my take on it. There's just no way that's the case. 10 years from now, Juan Soto is worth the $55 million, and that's not even. You've still got like 4 seasons left. So now Steve Cohen can, I guess, afford it. But if the Yankees had that, especially with Hal Steinbrenner, calculating, all the things that when to go above the certain thresholds, and I'll do that in a whole nother episode because I think that's ridiculous. But he's the owner. We can't really do much. I don't think he'll sell. I think so. Basically, I think the Yankees really dodged a bullet with Juan Soto. And, if you look at the team they have now, I'll go into this more in some more episodes, but I have some real concerns. I have some real concerns about Paul Goldschmidt. He's going to be 37 years old. He's got, at least on the field, he's got some real Josh Donaldson kind of vibes to me. The Yankees bringing him in thinking that he's going to shake things up with them, and he ends up being, a disaster, like we know. Now, Donaldson, it seems like, Judge and Goldschmidt are buddies. It seems like Goldschmidt is not going to be the same. Not that Donaldson he kind of had some issues with us. But, he's going to be maybe better in the locker room, but he's going to be 37 years old. Do you really think Paul Goldschmidt is going to be a really reliable baseball player for us? I have some serious doubts about that. Jason Dominguez, I'm really hopeful of him, but he's barely played. Okay. In 2023, he played awesome for like 4 games for us in the majors, and then got that injury, was out forever, came back late in the season last year and started in the minors, and then came up and really looked awful in the field. And I don't remember he didn't really hit that well either, and I think the hitting had to do with the fact that he hadn't really played that much. But if you remember, he like straight up, missed balls in the outfield, just like routine fly balls. He lost it in the sun. That was the excuse we got. He lost it in the sun. I'm sorry, Major League Baseball players shouldn't be losing things in the sun. That's just not, that's like minor league. That's like little league. And I'm not hating on him at all. I think he'll really shape it up, and I think he could be a breakout star for us this year. I'm really hopeful of that. I have, Austin Wells didn't end the season well last year offensively. Bellinger, I think Bellinger will be solid. I do. We have major issues with who's going to be playing third base. Oswaldo Cabrera or DJ LeMahieu both don't really look like great options as starters. So we've got a lot to cover, a lot to go over. But basically my point was, what we got instead for Juan Soto, at least offensively, is not going to be the same. I don't think our offense, our offense, may be worse this year. And that sounds crazy because really we only had 2 consistent hitters last year who were great, which was Soto and Judge. It sounds crazy to say that maybe our offense won't be as good, but it could be the case, especially if Goldschmidt doesn't pan out and Dominguez goes through rookie struggles, and Volpe's going to be Volpe, and LeMay, so we've got a lot of issues on the offense. Now we got a lot with pitching. We got Devin Williams, we got Max Fried, we've got, and I'll go into this in another video, we may have the best starting rotation. I mean, maybe not, but you could argue it, okay? So, but our bullpen has gotten better. But our bullpen last year was a major issue. I mean, Luke Weaver came up very good late overall. Some people stepped up in the playoffs, but our bullpen was a major liability. I don't think we're going to have that this year, assuming people don't get injured. So that was the video for today here at Yankees Fan Unleashed. If you like what you heard, hit the subscribe, hit the like button, comment. If you don't like what you saw, still comment. I don't know. I'm still working this out. Try not to be such a dick, I guess. But if you don't like what you saw, I guess still comment. I'm still learning. But yeah, I'll try to get videos out daily and see you in the next one.